All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to a very exciting episode our in our march to help everyone understand compliance AI. Today, we're going to be talking about your data and how AI is putting it at risk. We're just going to spend some time discussing the balance between innovation and the proper security measures, so you don't find yourself in a situation that others have found themselves in, right? Because everyone now is trying to use AI to maximize themselves as not only as a company but as employees. So we're going to be going through all the benefits and the risk in this webinar. But before we dive into this, I just want to frame a quick question and a perspective on AI. And I want to get some really good feedback and execution because of what the power behind it and what it can do. You know, I'll show you some of the ways of how we can help improve the speed, the accuracy, and efficiency, right? I'm going to be showing you how you can use AI to your advantage and experience firsthand the amount of impact this has when you do it right. That's the main thing is we want to be able to do it right. So, how can you take advantage of AI in your workplace? So I just want to show you just a super simple, efficient way that you can do this. We have two formats right now. Let's just imagine that you're like a CPA or even someone who works in accounting or administrative for a company. Just want to show just like the quick example and just the power behind it. Something that takes up a lot of time is cash flow projections. It takes a lot of time. So I'm just going to walk you through just the basic process of building out a cash flow document in Excel. And, just going to show you how you can connect that either through Copilot or, through ChatGPT. So let's just, watch this simple video of what you can do, right? So here they're just copying and pasting things right into ChatGPT. It starts analyzing, the data that you put in. Bust it out with really nice, easy to read charts, summaries, um, you know, just really quick at a click of a button. It broke it all down to you for what's the best thing. So it's because you can see it was pretty easy, plug and play, super simple. So I guess, who just learned something. Some people we talk to, they didn't even realize that you can do things as simple as that and get charts and scenarios and best case scenarios, to help you. So, if you learn something, this is something very, very basic right there. But now imagine that this was your company's actual data, right? What if that information that you just shared into ChatGPT or a Copilot were, transactions with vendor information on them, any real estate clients, any payroll things that you guys are actually, important about your clients or about your vendors or about your payroll. This is all sensitive data, very sensitive data. Do you think you should have put that into ChatGPT or run it through a Copilot? That's the main question everybody's, grappling with right now. It's shadow AI. That's the hidden AI use that most employees are using. So you may think, I mean, did you just break company rules? Do you have any policies around AI usage? Most people don't. The truth is probably, willingly leaking sensitive information already, and you don't even know about it. That AI, it's it could be a home, and AI is rewriting homes as marked as sold or marketed, and from AI descriptions to predictive pricing. Every time you or one of your agents uses ChatGPT, you may be sharing client data, and you're legally required to protect. I mean, you think about it, would you hand over your MLS login to a stranger? And that's pretty much what you're doing when you paste sensitive data into the AI tools. So you may be thinking is like, oh, who is this guy and what are we listening to and why, we should listen to him. So again, if you guys haven't seen the previous webinars, I'm Dennis Patino, the founder of Mostro Cybersecurity, as well as Absolute Marketing. A marketing firm has been around for over 14 years. We're Google partners. The reason we got into this was because a lot of our small business clients out of South Florida were started getting hacked over the last few years. And we knew that there was a way that we had to get into this to help and protect small businesses. Most of the top cybersecurity firms, if you don't have at least 30 users, they won't talk to you. And so that means that a small business owner doesn't have access to the proper enterprise level tools that are going to give them the best chance to protect them against AI and hackers. And that's when we decided we need to build Mostro to be able to properly defend a small business. And that's what we have right now. So getting back to what we're talking about, we've gone through, I've done ton, I mean, incident response for organizations. We've seen firsthand how hackers can get in and devastate the devastation it's caused to a business and to people and to the employees. And that's very concerning. That's why we decided to take advantage of this and jump in head first. So the truth is that most of these data breaches, they happen because of insider threats. You may be thinking, what is that? Well, someone clicked on a link, someone shared a password, or somebody, misses wire information, they send it to the wrong spot. That's an insider threat. You know, they did something that they weren't supposed to do, or they were tricked into doing it by AI. So the problem is that even with cyber awareness training going on in your organization, even with clear rules in place and clear understandings of what's going on, things still fall through the cracks. So because why? There is a new employee. It's called AI. It skipped the training and it doesn't care about your rules. Your team is already using AI. It's in fact about 75% of employees are using AI in the workplace right now. 75%. But they aren't telling you how they're using it. They're not talking about it. And you may think it's like, why? What do you mean? Why wouldn't somebody tell me? And it's because one, they don't want to divulge that they're actually using it, but they don't want to make their jobs look like they're replaceable. And that's the biggest fear that we're seeing a lot of right now in the workplace is that people think that AI is going to take my job. And I don't want to let my employee or my employers or the company know that I'm using AI. And that hurts the business. Your team doesn't understand the risk. They don't understand that what AI sees, AI stores it. AI set to pull information from different places and from your organization, from emails, Excel files, Word docs, SharePoint, OneDrives, your CRM software, things where you have your client information, contracts, all those things. It pulls information from there. So, and most of the models right now, they're free. There's three of them, and they don't have specific rules around what can be used and what can't be used to train the model itself. You may be thinking, like, well, why does it matter? What's the big deal? So, if we take a closer look, it is a pretty big deal. Realtors right now, real estates, they gather what's called MPI, names, addresses, and wiring instructions, and they share that with the AI tools. Well, that becomes a compliance violation under FTC safeguards and state privacy laws. So if your agents are already using the free AI models to save time and they're not telling you, that's a data leak waiting to happen. So, here's another example. Agents use ChatGPT to write an email and they post it and they paste the client's contract terms. Those terms are now part of the global AI training data set, right? Or somebody, uploads a pre-approval letter into Copilot just to summarize. That PII is now exposed to the Microsoft Graph. These are all forms of data leakage. data leakage, and that is what's the FTC um, fines and everything comes from that, right? So there's three different doors we're going to be talking about. There's the front door, right? And the front door, anything can, leak out through the front door. It can leak out through the back door and or the side door. So let's talk first the front door. The front door is simple. It's your employees are feeding sensitive data into the AI tools, contracts, credentials, financials, different things, whatever they have access, communications, they're feeding it in there saying, how can I communicate better? How can I write this email better? How can I, do a post better? How can I make this listing better? How can I, sell this? Somebody responded to this. How can I reply to this better? So that's all stuff that you're feeding through the front door. So like I said, it's personal data, financial data, all these different credentials. That's what they feed. So they only see the reward, but they don't see the risk. And that's where you as the broker, as the owner, need to see this risk and understand it. So the big problem is that they only see the improvement to their own productivity, but they're not able to have, so they can move faster and be more efficient. And in a recent study, one out of three people admits that they're inputting sensitive data into the AI models. One in three. So this is already information that's out there. And when it comes to different solutions, ignorance is the risk. That's the big problem. And it's not even like on the low level, we've already seen this happen in huge companies like Samsung. Some employees were caught, uploading proprietary information, sensitive intellectual property into ChatGPT, and didn't think about the larger ramifications. So you think, oh, what happened? Samsung engineer, they made that critical mistake. They uploaded all that stuff, and they didn't realize that now their source code was into ChatGPT, and it wasn't like a hacker or malware or anything. It was their own people from Samsung that uploaded in there, and they didn't think about the risk. And now the risk came from the insider, and that was just a simple copy paste, and they still don't even know how deep, that information is all over open AI servers. Samsung lost control, and that's a huge compliance issue. So by default, ChatGPT, they retain all the conversations and uses to train the future models. They want to constantly be getting better, so they're saving everything. So even if you delete a chat, it's already baked into AI directly. So, if you think, oh, maybe I'll just disable the history now, that's good, but you can't roll back the time. And that's what Samsung learned the hard way. So it's very important to, we don't want to, ban the use of the generative AI. Not because AI is bad, it's just the way that it's being used is what's creating the unacceptable risk. And this is a governance issue. It's not a tech issue. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is all the different trade secrets, intellectual properties, financial information, what makes your brokerage better than another, different strategies, different things. And you just drop that into the ChatGPT. No one knows exactly where it's going. So this is very, very important. And what we see is that most people, they don't have a policy for any of this stuff. I want every business leader in here to just think, what's your AI usage policy? Most of the teams don't even know that what they can or can't share. Someone dumps sensitive information into the chatbot tomorrow. Do you even know about it? Samson had to learn the hard way, and you guys who are on this webinar don't, because we're gonna have a good solution and something that you guys can help protect yourselves, finishing off 2025 and putting you in a great position for 2026. It's very important that you know the different policies and the proper use of AI. So you're protecting that front door. But now is the back door. The back door is a little bit different. The back door is all about AI harvesting data automatically. You're thinking like, how does that work? Well, AI models like Copilot, they plug directly into the products you use on a daily basis. So it's like imagine somebody on your team has PII information on a device, and then one of the things that we see is that they're sharing information, or they have things on their device from payroll information, 401k, commissions, pay client data. All that stuff is stored, right? So when Copilot sees that information and it's walking, through all that on their device, on OneDrive or on Google Drive or in any of these things, the conversations, everything's in in the email inbox. AI isn't asking for permission. AI isn't asking for permission if they can use this or not from default. Unless we do all the stuff that we need to do and then put the guardrails, it just sees it as valuable free information. And so that's really, really, dangerous. The Microsoft Graph API is just generating and using all this stuff to how to help you, but unless it's properly trained on what it can use and what it can't, and then we have paid versions, all of this stuff is a big risk. So if you have any misconfigured security settings or permissions within your tenant that aren't set up exactly right, you're in danger. You're in danger. Um, Maybe you don't have a data loss prevention set up with the categorization, and then all that sensitive information is just sitting out there, and then ChatGPT or Copilot doesn't know, what's sensitive and what's not, what it can be used or not, and AI is just scooping up all that data. It's trying to help you be more efficient, but it's not thinking about the security behind it. And it's not thinking about the FTC, right? So this makes that improper data storage a huge risk to your brokerage, to your organization, anything of that nature. And that's why we need to, understand the risk so we can understand how to properly protect ourselves and put ourselves in a good position. So, a question you want to think about is the back door of the company. And, if you're not currently categorizing sensitive data within your company, for example, like financial documents, commissions, payrolls, anything of that nature, and those documents are not tagged as sensitive, Copilot can see them, use them, and context that in responding to somebody else's prompt inside of your company, or even give that information when prompted in the right way. So the back door is just as dangerous as the front door. And that's one of the things that we want everyone to, to understand that. So now let's talk about the side door. The side door is where all the AI plugins and integrations come into play. This is big. The thing is that hackers are taking advantage of you and your team's desire to become more efficient. The first thing they're doing is simple, right? They're just embedding malware into AI applications. That's one of the easiest things they can do. They're embedding malware into AI applications. And what this means is that they create an actual usable AI application or plugin. These are coming, you see tons of these left and right. You can, Google it or look on the App Store, and there's so many different apps that use AI and they swear that they're the best thing. Well, all those softwares, they're all integrating integrating with each other. And so if they're not fully vetted or tested, and your employees, are downloading them and letting them run inside of your company's environment, they can contain malicious code, and there's nobody knowing any of this is happening. This is all part of that shadow AI. And look what happened to Disney, right? An employee downloaded a free open source AI graphic generator, right? You could see how you can make graphics. We talked last week about the AI, the deep fakes and all those tools, right? Well, he downloaded it onto his computer. He didn't realize it wasn't real. It went through and it harvested all of his passwords, all of his account credentials to Disney. And we're not talking about Disney Plus here. We're talking about Disney, right? So if it can happen to Disney, this can happen to all of us, right? So the other thing is that it's happening to people, they're asking AI for advice. You may have done this. I've done this, right? And you ask it for advice, this morning, what to eat for breakfast and my calorie intakes, what should I go to the gym, all kinds of stuff. You're asking for advice. So hackers now are using AI to come up with ways to break into the solutions and security that we're spending so much time putting in place. It's just that easy. They know that if they can get, to people's AI agents and then just use it to extract information that was already uploaded, that was already fed to it. So that's where the programmers are building those AI tools. They're building them so quickly and too quickly. And it's like, why? You're thinking it's, and it's because in AI, time is very valuable. Time is of the essence. Everyone wants to get their product out the door as fast as they can. And what that means is that, there's a lot of missteps, a lot of vulnerabilities are left wide open, and they find out when it's too late. AI researchers themselves are being targeted right now. There's a large number of hackers out of China who successfully deployed a remote access toolkit and a number of AI researchers that end up leaking a whole huge information that's now being used to look for weaknesses in these different AI platforms. So these are things that are happening right now. And you may think, well, why does AI want that data? Well, the answer is very simple. Every time you use AI, you're training it, right? You're training it to solve problems, to solve problems. You're training it to communicate. And you're asking it to solve problems for your company. You're training it to communicate with your company and your customers. And while you're performing, and you're performing this called a quality analysis. So what that means is that you're working with an AI program that doesn't give you back exactly what you want, and you improve it, right? If you type something into ChatGPT and it spits something out that's not right, you don't just say like, "Oh, okay, that's it." No, you go back in and you keep fine tuning it and fine tuning it and fine tuning it together. You guys are working together. Well, that's building the quality analysis of how to be more, better and accurate for your company. And so, you're building and improving AI right now, and every chat, that's every piece of data that you're sharing with it. And so, the problem is that they could be sharing, your team could be sharing AI, company sensitive data, client information, all things that are, FTC violations, trade secrets, whatever it is, contracts, and then they are, and that's all what the hackers can get access to. So, one thing I want to mention is on the AI side, when it comes to users, is that AI is actually making you dumber. And the reason we say that is that, we've as atrophy, this is where a situation you're not thinking, you're not coming off the stuff on your own. It just makes you weaker. Think about it's like going to the gym, right? If you go to the gym, you're making your muscles stronger, right? The more you keep going, you make yourself stronger. But that same thing goes with your brain. So if you're not using your brain like that, just letting ChatGPT do all your work, that's what that scenario is saying is you're not sharpening, you're not going to the gym, you're not keeping your mind, you're just letting AI do all the work for you. So if that's not scary yet, that's what we're seeing right now, what's going on. And that's what, we want you to help you understand these risks, and what we're supposed to do. So, we have a problem. The problem is that AI works. um, it's just, it's the data that's connected to it. That's the problem. So think about it for a minute. A trained AI expert making decisions on years and years worth of experience in any field. This is where we are today. The internal workers are so, vast that even experts can't explain how they work or what is the output. So the complexity of these models often leads to a black box problem. Okay. And what that is, it's difficult to understand why a model makes a particular decision, and people blindly trust what the computer chatbot tells them. So let's get this straight. So, right. So AI doesn't guarantee accuracy. It's just like people, we make mistake. The problem is it does so it gives the information with confidence. So you get a clean, articulate answer, but that doesn't mean it's right. That false confidence is what gives creators risk, especially when people treat AI like a trusted advisor. So AI is a black box, especially with deep learning models, layers upon layers of decision making we don't fully understand. We know what goes in, we see what comes out, but the logic in the middle, in that gap, that's invisible, and that's what makes auditing AI behavior incredibly difficult, if not impossible, in real time. So here's the human factor. We're hardwired to trust computers. People see a result from ChatGPT and they assume it's factual. It's like getting test results from a doctor. But AI doesn't operate like that. It's a predictive engine, not a truth machine. The blind trust, it's a liability if we're not careful, right? So the takeaway is that you need process and policy. Your team must validate what AI outputs, especially in customer facing or compliance heavy roles like the real estate industry, mortgage industries, attorneys, legal, medical. So you don't let um, automations replace accountability, right? You want to, review, verify, and document when AI gets it wrong. The liability still lands on you, right? And now AI is learning and growing on its own. And we're feeding that beast. So what can you do? That's like really right now. This is like, it's scary. It's like all this information, all this stuff we didn't realize that's out there on the other side of the compliance side. And that's what we're going to give you some implementation best practices that we're going to share with you. You know, what you need to think about and how to allow this in terms to make sure that everything's in the right place, is being used right, and is in a safe way. So, on the flip side, you need to think about what you won't allow, and what is your own best practices when it comes to using AI. That's very, very important. And the key here is to establish this immediately. Immediately. You see, some of your clients may not want their data to be used for AI training. And some of your contracts, especially the newer ones, may have a clause in them that says specifically no artificial intelligence. Very, very important. So, we're talking about contracts, commitments to vendors, customer experiences, closing documents, all these different things. These are hidden promises that you're making right now, and ultimately, you're responsible. So, what's the first step? First step is to implement an acceptable use policy. And I'm going to give you a hand with this, right? In fact, we're putting together, for you an acceptable use AI worksheet. It's on our website. If you go to mostrocybersecurity.com/AI hyphen policy, you can download the acceptable use policy right there, right? That's, I'm gonna leave that up there for a little bit so you guys can look at it, because the goal is that you'll be able to get there, fill out the quick form, download it, it's a PDF, and be able to customize it and fill it out. And the goal is you want is everyone to be able to acknowledge that, and that way you have some form of compliance. So this is kind of a little bit what it looks like and everything of that nature. You can customize this policy to your organization's specific preferences. Some of the key points to consider when you're doing this is, are generative AI apps and services allowed, or are they prohibited? If allowed, which ones are officially endorsed? Who is responsible for approving this use? Who is responsible for the implementation? And what is considered acceptable or unacceptable use? These are all the questions you should be asking yourself when creating this policy, right? So we built this policy around how your team can use AI. It doesn't take much time at all to create the rules for your employees, so that everyone knows what's good and what's not good, what's right and what's wrong. AI is powerful. We know all that. But what you don't want is to give a blank check and let it start making decisions for you, right? That's not something we want to do, because AI security is not a given. It's not automatic. If used improperly, it can expose your company's sensitive data information. It can increase the attack surface of your organization for hackers, and it can lead to regulatory fines and liabilities that you may not even think about today. The key here is to not allow AI to take advantage of your organization. So just, we just went through and we created a policy. Now you have it, you put it all together, and that's it, right? You may be thinking, that's all I gotta do? And it's like, just because you have a policy doesn't mean everyone's gonna read it. Even if they read it, it doesn't mean that they understand it, much less follow it. This is one of the most common disconnects we see in businesses. Intent without execution, it creates exposure, guys. Exposure. So think back, if have you ever rolled out a new policy and had it fall completely flat? No behavior change, no, nobody made any, it didn't make any noise, nobody did anything. Why do you think that that happened? It's usually because no one owned the rollout. No one made sure that it was understood. No one made it stick. So with AI policies, it's you gotta understand that it's not a nice to have. It's essential because one single mistake, it's like dumping sensitive data into your, ChatGPT and exposing your company to lawsuits, compliance failures, reputational damage. So the employees must know what's allowed, what's not allowed, and why this matters. That's what we really need. We need everyone to understand and be on the same page, and this all comes from leadership. Every employee needs to sign off. They need to acknowledge that they understood it, they read it and they understand the AI policy. They need to commit to following it. This isn't busy work. This is evidence. If something goes wrong, your leadership acted. That's like your defense in the courts, in audits, and in the boardroom, is that you have the evidence that you were doing everything, correct. And but what about the data? You don't control it. How do you manage that? And I know for some of you are thinking like, this isn't my job. This isn't what I don't, I don't, this is not me. The leadership, but really it's, cybersecurity and cyber risk, it's everyone's job. Everyone on the team needs to understand is like, if you are investing your life, um, working at a company or building a business, then cyber risk are real. And this is everybody. It's not just an IT people's risk. No, we are the weakest link, the humans. Like we talked about, you clicked on a link, you shared a password, you did something you're not supposed to do. These are all risks of how hackers use AI and automations to take advantage of us. So it's a culture, right? So, you can't outsource the leadership. This all comes from the top down, and the culture that needs to be implemented now, because this is a new world and it's just going to keep getting, it's going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing. So, one of the things, is we want to put a plan in place, to avoid liabilities, breaches, potential non-compliance, and that's what we help out. That's one of the things that we help you guys with, putting this all thing together. So, we can go through and provide you an analysis of your data. We help you figure out, what you're doing when it comes to things like cyber hygiene, making sure your employees are, aren't leaving personal II information or clients' documents, any communications, that everything is the way it's supposed to be with the guardrails. So we help protect that and analyze, and every company is different, but we have already a designated framework that we know that works, and we can help customize that and implement that for you, and help with the training of the employees and everything of that nature. Because the bottom line comes down to is, is your business is smart, but is the cybersecurity, is the compliance? And that's what we're seeing, that this is something new. All these new tools keep coming out, and if we're not paying attention to it, we're not doing everything right, then we are, at risk. And one of the ways that because we hear a lot when we talk to people like, well, I've never been risk, I've never been hacked before. Why do I need to, concern myself with this? And consider yourself lucky, because the stats not don't say that, and like, if you get hacked, it's when you get hacked. It's gonna happen, right? So one of the best ways that you can prevent this and know all your vulnerabilities is by the penetration test that we're offering, that the Star membership, the what is it, Suncoast Real Estate Association, they're giving complimentary to, to some of the brokers, the people that are in this calls. We have a select number complimentary, because this exam is easily $5,000 and up, and we're doing a complimentary for, key brokerages that show, And that test is amazing because what it does, it simulates like, let's say one of your employees clicked the link and it downloaded, something into your computers. What can the hackers get access to? And it's a very, very valuable insight that's done by a third party. We use a third party, so it's unbiased, and we're giving that, giving that away complimentary. And then the bottom part where it says the 25% off is that after we do the analysis, after you see all your vulnerabilities and you decide, wow, this is important, I want to work with these guys. Well, we have a special promotion that we've already vetted with the Suncoast Real Estate Association to help everybody. Because our goal is to be able to help, that we're giving 25% discount off of any of our cybersecurity or compliance programs. So I really encourage you guys to, to reach out, take advantage of these amazing gifts that the association is giving to the star members. We encourage you to scan this code, book an appointment with us. We sign an NDA with every client that we're going to talk to because it's extremely confidential, the information that we're going to be sharing. And we want you to know that we take this very, very serious. So we always sign an NDA prior to talking and discussing anything for any of our clients. So we highly recommend and encourage you guys to, to book an appointment with us, talk to us, look at the previous um, webinars we've done on our YouTube channel. Make sure you guys are following our social medias. We're constantly have our ears to the ground, coming out with new strategies and new tips on how to prevent and protect your businesses, your babies. So again, Dennis Patino, the founder, and I look forward to talking to you and seeing you guys. Thank you.